In 1919, in Eastern Europe, Herschel Greenbaum was a Jewish man struggling with life, working hard in a trench. One day, his shovel snapped. Despite the tough times, things shifted when Herschel met Sarah at a marketplace. Even though Sarah initially didn't show any interest, Herschel was determined. He put in extra effort in everything to win her heart. Slowly, Sarah began to warm up to him, and soon they became an inseparable pair. They often visited a secluded swamp, where they shared their deepest desires. Sarah wished for enough wealth to have a grand tombstone, while Herschel simply yearned for seltzer water. They believed that together, their dreams would become a reality. They soon tied the knot in a grand ceremony. But tragedy struck when Cossacks raided their town. The couple, who were among the lucky survivors, chose to move to the US. In America, Herschel worked in a pickle factory, but not in the role he wanted. He was tasked with chasing rats. Even with the odds against them, Herschel managed to buy a plot in the cemetery for Sarah and himself, fulfilling her dream. As Sarah became pregnant, Herschel made a promise to her: their family name would be known in a century. However, a sad twist of fate happened. Chasing a rat one day, Herschel fell into a pickle vat. Nobody saw him, and the factory closed on that very day. A century went by until two young teens, searching for their lost quadcopter, stumbled upon the factory and found Herschel in the vat. The brine had preserved him. Scientists announced the miracle to the public, and they soon located a relative of Herschel's, a great-grandson named Ben in Brooklyn. When they met, the resemblance was clear. Upon stepping out, Herschel was bewildered by the unfamiliar streets. "You're going to see a lot that's new," Ben assured him. The sight of a taxi startled Herschel, but Ben eased his worries, explaining cars were everywhere now. Ben led Herschel to his flat, a space that amazed Herschel, considering its size. In his time, such luxury was unthinkable for a family. Gratefully, Herschel learned he was welcome to stay. He was equally surprised to find out that seltzer water, his old dream, was now a common drink. Ben even had an AI play vintage tunes, leaving Herschel wondering where the music was coming from. During a city stroll, Herschel was surprised by how common interracial marriages had become. The modern world was overwhelming. Ben owned several shoes and socks, luxuries Herschel hadn't known. When Ben discussed his job as an app developer, Herschel was lost, unfamiliar with smartphones and their uses. Ben mentioned wanting to sell his app to start anew. Curiously, Herschel asked to see family photos. Handing over an album, Ben showed a wedding photo that brought tears to Herschel's eyes. There was also a snap of Mort, Herschel's son, whom Sarah had after Herschel's disappearance. Flipping the pages, they saw pictures of Ben's parents and his grandfather, David. Sadly, Ben revealed they had died in a car crash. Herschel proposed visiting the family graves, but Ben hesitated. The older man was surprised to learn Ben didn't practice their faith. He felt religion held people back. Nonetheless, Ben took Herschel to the old graveyard. The sight of the neglected tombstones, including Sarah's, saddened Herschel deeply. Close by, an ad for vodka caught Herschel's eye, reminding him of the Cossacks, the Jews' old enemies. Mistakenly thinking a worker there was a Cossack due to the vodka association, Herschel picked a fight. Ben tried intervening but to no avail. The police came, and both ended up detained. After being bailed out, Herschel was set on getting the vodka ad removed. Ben clarified that the Cossacks weren't responsible for the ad, explaining it was a big company's doing. Herschel couldn't grasp why Ben didn't stand up for their family's legacy, but Ben was preoccupied with his app and an investor meeting. Unfortunately, the meeting turned sour when the investor backed out because of Ben's recent arrest, which was detrimental to their brand's reputation. Coming home upset, Ben blamed Herschel. In response, Herschel proposed they start a pickle business. Ben scoffed at the idea and mentioned it might be better that Sarah wasn't alive to see Herschel now. Angered, Herschel vowed to set up a pickle enterprise, make $200,000, buy the controversial ad land, and remove the offensive banner. Without money to buy supplies, Herschel resorted to dumpster diving, finding cucumbers, salt, and other essentials. He soon made his first pickle batch and sold them downtown. Two young guys were fascinated by his organic approach and became his first customers, paying him $4 and even promising to return the jars. Meanwhile, Ben's life wasn't on the upswing. Everywhere online were articles about his arrest. Drowning his sorrows at a bar, he learned about Herschel's rising fame because of a prominent blogger featuring his pickles. Though not particularly tasty, people loved them. As Herschel's popularity grew, with videos even poking fun at Ben, the younger Greenbaum plotted revenge. He tipped off the health department about Herschel's unsanitary methods. Sure enough, health officials soon confronted Herschel about his practices and presented him with a hefty bill for back taxes and fines. Ben felt vindicated. However, internet supporters suggested Herschel get help to expand, preferably unpaid interns looking for experience. To everyone's astonishment, numerous people volunteered to help Herschel. Under his direction, they began using dumpster jars to pickle cucumbers. In contrast, Ben tried convincing an investor about a brilliant app idea he had. To his dismay, he learned not only was Herschel's venture doing well, but also the investor had chosen a different app. Herschel, feeling triumphant, soon purchased the cemetery land. Yet, the next day, sadness washed over him as he remembered that Ben's parents, Susan and David Greenbaum, were also buried there. Ben stumbled upon an online article about Herschel and recognized a familiar face, his previous investor. His frustration towards Herschel deepened. Reflecting on his past, Ben watched a graduation video where his parents expressed their immense pride in him, making him feel guilty. A sudden knock broke his thoughts. It was Herschel, holding the controversial banner, claiming he'd set things right with the Cossacks. Wanting to assist his struggling great-grandson, Herschel offered his help. But, in a twist, Ben proposed Herschel start a Twitter account. Soon, with Clara's help, Herschel's Twitter was active. Some tweets promoting his pickles were downright offensive, targeting disabled individuals and women. The next day, an outraged mob gathered, and Clara switched sides, joining the protesters. Online, Herschel faced a backlash, branded as an extremist. Yet, some supported him, seeing a deeper meaning in his words. His sudden popularity skyrocketed, and he even appeared on a TV show. When questioned about his controversial opinions, Herschel seemed genuinely confused, causing some to find profound wisdom in his response. Ben's envy towards Herschel intensified, especially when his great-grandfather was invited for a debate with a prominent figure. At the event, Herschel made shocking statements about women, backed by strong arguments, and received surprising applause. Many even urged him to consider a council seat. In a surprise twist, a disguised Ben posed a religious query to Herschel, who failed to see the trap. His response angered the audience, leading to a chaotic chase. Herschel found refuge behind trash cans, but news soon spread that authorities planned to strip his citizenship and expel him from the country. A bounty was announced for information leading to the location of the undocumented immigrant, Herschel. Desperate, he entered Ben's home, seeking help to flee to Canada. Herschel remained unaware that Ben was behind his misfortunes. Eventually, Ben decided to help him reach Canada, on the condition that Herschel never crossed his path again. As they began their trip, avoiding main roads and crowded areas, Ben noticed that Herschel consistently looked out for him. However, their trip took a sudden halt when they spotted a police car. They quickly hid. During this moment, Herschel's thoughts drifted to Sarah and expressed hope to see Ben in Canada one day. To Herschel's astonishment, Ben proposed they return and set things straight. It was then that Ben confessed his role in Herschel's ordeals. After a heated exchange and a punch, their commotion attracted the police's attention. Herschel disguised himself as Ben, presenting Ben's passport. The police, confused, arrested the real Ben, thinking he was Herschel. This event made headlines. At court, their lawyer tried proving Ben's identity, but to no avail. Ben was sent off to Eastern Europe. Watching this unfold on TV, Herschel went to Ben's apartment, reminiscing over family pictures. In one, he saw a drawing by a young Ben, showing his deep love for his parents. Meanwhile, Ben found himself in a remote Jewish village where communication was a challenge. Stranded, he took refuge in a church. An elderly man approached him for a memorial prayer. Despite his unfamiliarity with the ritual, he accepted, moved to tears by memories of his family. Unexpectedly, he spotted Herschel. They reconciled, realizing their shared guilt. Herschel then showed Ben a cherished drawing from his childhood, proving his continuous love for his family. By daybreak, Herschel took Ben to a once-loved swamp by Sarah, now tainted by industries. Inspired, Ben suggested a joint family venture. They made amends and chose to work together. Some time after, both of them visited a graveyard, praying side by side.